Miller Moss transferring in from USC to be the starting quarterback for Louisville after Tyler Shuff went to the NFL draft after almost a decade in college football. He at one point backed up Justin Herbert, who's been on the Chargers for a few years now. I think they're going to miss that veteran presence in the locker room, but Miller Moss should still be a solid addition and talent-wise should be able to provide a similar ability at the quarterback position that we saw from Tyler Shuff, and he'll have three very easy games to get acclimated to the offense. First one being FCS Eastern Kentucky. That'll be a super easy win to move to 1-0. And then James Madison and Bowling Green, also going to be very easy games, all three at home as well. Louisville will be 3-0 heading into their first ACC matchup.
Matchup is a road game against Pitt. The Panthers returning Eli Holstein at the quarterback position after a very solid year. Pitt also has a wealth of weapons for him, including their starting running back, who is also returning in Desmond Reed. This Pitt team started off 7-0 last season before losing five regular season games in a row and culminating their season with a loss in a bowl game to Toledo in six overtimes. I don't think Pitt is in for a season just like that. I don't think they're going to win seven in a row just to lose six in a row after that. I do think the defense needs to take a look within and understand that you cannot give up a run like that again. I think this defense will be pretty decent once again. And offensively, I think Eli Holstein is going to take a step forward. I think Desmond Reed is going to elevate his gameplay once again. And I think the wide receiver room is going to be good enough where Pitt can compete with a Louisville team that is looking pretty solid going into next year, especially with Isaac Brown back as their lead running back, who is probably going to be the top running back in the ACC. This game could really go either way, but we're going to go with an upset to kick off Louisville's ACC play with Pitt protecting the home field advantage.
And then it's Louisville's turn for the home field advantage with Virginia. Not too high on this Virginia team. I think they have the potential to pull off, maybe one upset or two, but overall, just not as talented as Louisville. Fully expect the Cardinals to win this game heading into their second bye week, which is very early as they end the season on a 7 game stretch. The first of which a road trip to Miami. Carson Beck transferring in to be the starting quarterback for the Hurricanes. And overall, they're going to be a very solid team. They made a lot of improvements on the defense, which, as we all know, was probably the reason that they ended up missing the college football playoffs last season. I think that Beck, while he's not going to be quite as good as Cam Ward was, as Ward was the number one overall draft pick, he should still be a solid presence in that room and provide a decent amount of production at the quarterback position. We're not super high on him as he's tended to struggle sometimes with throwing interceptions, but I think he'll be able to get it together enough that Miami's going to be a really good team, which is why we are going to go with the Hurricanes at home to pull off another win over Louisville, and the Cardinals will drop to 4-2.
After that Miami loss, they'll be back home to take on Boston College, year two under Bill O'Brien, and it sees the departure of their quarterback, Thomas Castellanos, who transferred to Florida State and likely their starting quarterback there. Now, Boston College was still a successful team while Castellanos was dealing with an injury throughout last season and still finished with a pretty decent record in the middle of the ACC. I think that there will be a little bit of regression with the departure of Castellanos, but I do think they can still be a bit of a competitive team, but not against this Louisville team. I think Miller Moss at this point in the season, along with the two losses to learn from, will turn it up a notch. And I think Isaac Brown will start to run through teams left and right. And it will start with a win over Boston College here. And then they go on the road the following week to take on Virginia Tech, one of the most underrated field atmospheres, I would say. Enter Sandman is one of those great pregame traditions. But Virginia Tech as a team is going to be a little interesting. Their secondary, which was very strong last year, is losing a good amount of its production, whether it was to the NFL draft or through the transfer portal. The two names that stick out the most are Dorian Strong, who was drafted this past NFL draft, and Mansour Delaney, who transferred to LSU. I think those departures on defense are going to hinder Virginia Tech's chances of being a really competitive team, even with the return of quarterback Kyron Drones. I think Louisville will go into Lane Stadium and come out victorious, moving to 6-2.
Then it's back home to face Cal, and we were originally pretty high on this Cal team with Devin Brown transferring in to be the starting quarterback, as well as bringing back Jaden Ott. But Jaden Ott, as well as a lot of other players, since transferred out of the program, since we made our original predictions for Cal, and we are nowhere near as high on this team anymore. I think Cal's probably not going to be very good this season. Louisville considerably more talented. They will get this win as well to move to 7-2. And then one of their most anticipated matchups of the season facing Clemson. The Tigers are going to be one of the best teams in college football this year. Their defensive line is ridiculous with two top five projected picks on that line, as well as Cade Klubnik at quarterback, who is also projected to be a top five pick. Dabo Sweeney finally used the transfer portal as well to build onto this team. I think that this is going to be a really, really good Clemson team. And I think that Louisville is going to pull off a ridiculous upset that nobody sees coming over this Clemson team.
But maybe some people see this coming, especially considering that this Louisville team did beat Clemson last season at Death Valley by a score of 33-21. And I think a good amount of people are expecting Louisville to go back to back this season, especially with it being a home game this year. Yes, Clemson might be the more talented team with so much starting production on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, along with, like you said, Jonah, Dabo Sweeney using the transfer portal. But I think Louisville, to this point in the season, if the schedule goes as we are predicting, needs a huge win if they want to make a statement to the playoff committee. And that has to start with a win over a likely top five team in the country in Clemson. So I think the upset is without a doubt possible. It's just going to be a matter of can Miller Moss get the job done against the Tigers. Following week, they're going to play the other ACC team that made the college football playoffs, and that is the SMU Mustangs. The difference here, it is on the road. Kevin Jennings is back as their starting quarterback after a phenomenal regular season. Did struggle quite a bit in their first round playoff game against Penn State. Granted that Penn State defense was one of the best defenses in the country. But I think SMU is going to see a little bit of improvement. If not any improvement, it's going to be about the same as we saw last year. I think the success of last year's team has brought in more talent, whether it was through the transfer portal or through recruiting. And I think SMU will see similar success as to what they saw last year, especially, like I said, with Kevin Jennings returning. And I think Kevin Jennings will get the best of Miller Moss here, especially with it being at home for the Mustangs, dropping the Cardinals to 8-3.
I think another element is really just the fact that, after pulling off such a huge upset over Clemson, emotions are high. Then you go on the road to a team, that lost really badly to Clemson last year, maybe overlook them a little bit and end up falling on the road.
Yeah, now that you say that, I'm looking at Louisville last season, and you're actually spot on. After beating Clemson, they proceeded to lose a road game to Stanford, 38-35. And that, I believe, was the game that they actually choked away, that they had no business losing and turned the ball over with 6 seconds left before Stanford kicked a field goal to win the game. So you're absolutely right. This makes perfect sense. And SMU is also a way better team than Stanford is and ever will be. But like you said, definitely a possibility for Louisville to have their emotions run high and fall short in this game.
Yeah, history repeats itself once again. And finally, to close out the season, a home game against their rivals in Kentucky. This one, I do think that Louisville is a significantly better team. But Kentucky brought in incarnate word transfer quarterback Zach Calzada, and I think he is an incredible player, probably one of the few bright spots on this Kentucky team. And I do believe that he has the ability to keep them in some games, including most likely this one, because a lot of the other players are going to want to push for a win over their rivals. However, Louisville is at home. They are the better team overall. And as hard as Zach Calzada tries to win this game for his team, I don't think it will be quite enough. Maybe a little closer than some people expect, but I do believe Louisville will win this game to move to 9-3, which is an improvement from our way too early predictions of 8-4, where we projected them to go 8.1 and 3.9. That projection has improved slightly to 8.3 and 3.7, with 4.7 wins in the ACC. The floor for the Cardinals going to be 7-5 this season, 4-4 in the ACC, and the ceiling 11-1, 7-1 in conference play. So thank you guys for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you in our next video.